Shaher's gave 20 minutes to Yaakov to speak, told me only 5 minutes. So Yaakov only spoke 3, so I don't want to disappoint anybody. And in closing, you knew it had to happen at some point, Mendy was going to speak. I'll try to make this as painless as possible. Before I begin, really, I ask everyone to please shut their phones. I myself am going to remove my BlackBerry, my blueberries, my Daryl Strawberry card, my Burberry, my Holly Berry picture, and I actually have a Burberry tie, which I'm not removing because Shira got it for me for Hanukkah, and I'm also not touching my boysenberries.
That was Yaakov's that he didn't want to say.
My punchline. Usually when I get up to speak at an occasion, I say I didn't have time to prepare. And that is the truth. In fact, the first time I spoke in my life in public was in front of a large crowd was Shavuos 1963. It was my bar mitzvah. I didn't prepare. I learned my bar mitzvah shtetl the night before my bar mitzvah, and I delivered it the next day. I see some of you are trying to figure out how old I am, so it's very simple. If you take my age and add 11 to it, you get the number of differently shaped dishes that were at the ofruf in the wedding. Thank you, Esther. Anyway, with Moshe, I didn't want to take any chances, so I did prepare. In fact, I started preparing 2 years ago. As soon as I placed my eye on a potential shidduch for him, I prepared a speech just in case. So let me see and make sure that I take out the right one. Let's see.
You did not take that many.
Demi Moore before Ashton Kutcher. No. Demi Moore after Ashton Kutcher. Ashton Kutcher. This one must be a relative of Demi Moore. Lee Moore. Rebbitzin Gruber. No, Demi. Can't be. It's got to be a good one here. Oh, here it is. Adriana. Of course, then I had no idea how to pronounce the name. Every time I said her name, someone pounced on me. It's Adriana, not Adriana. I guess I'm not as talented as Lipa Schmelzer. He said it 76 times without a mistake. Moshe and Adriana. Moshe and Adriana. I don't know what it is with the Berg family with these difficult names. Howie had to pick a profession that is almost impossible for us simple people to pronounce. He is an otolaryngologist. Did I pronounce it correct?
Excellent.
Excellent. It's no wonder why some kind and considerate person shortened it and renamed it ENT. Just for the record, so I don't get pounced on, is it Naomi, Naomi, which way?
Anyway.
Nami?
Nechama.
Nechama, okay. Didn't want to make a mistake. By the way, Baruch Hashem, we now have 2 ENTs in the family. Let me explain. This is only actually the second time I'm reading this. It's still funny to me too. We all know the wonderful qualities of Shaher.
Uh-oh. Go to page 2.
When it comes to lending a helping hand to anyone, there's no one like him. Really. From A to Z, literally. From A, fixing air conditioners, to Z, zippers. From A, if you have an ache, to see if you have a zit that popped out just before a simcha. A simple call to Dr. Shahersh and he takes care of it. That's one. Another specialty of Shahersh, and more than parenthetically Yehudis as well, is the Kiddush every Shabbos that they give, especially the Cholent. You need more than medical research to come up with their formulation. And finally, the most noted trademark of Shahersh, the one thing that he possesses, or rather doesn't possess 90% of the times, pants. If Shahersh is not in shorts, it is but for one of two reasons. A, he's in his bathing suit in Miami, or B, Yehuda or Yisrael are wearing it. Yes, it's hereditary. You see, Adriana, what you have to look forward to? So here you have it. Shahersh is the first ENT in our family, and here's why. The E, of course, stands for everything. He does everything and does everything well. N, he's a nephrologist. A person trained in dealing with kidney beans. And T, you guessed it, trouser free. Thank you, Shira. Shahersh actually asked me to speak on Friday night, but it is traditional when you speak on a Shabbos that you say something from the Parsha. And I couldn't find anything that had a connection with a shidduch or a marriage in Parshas Vayigash. The whole Bereshis is full with marriages and shidduchs and the others finding their shidduchim and who they married and how they found them, but not a word of it in Vayigash. So I declined. My replacement did very well. Then he tells me that I need to speak tonight. Once again, I looked in Vayichi, and no one got engaged, no one got married, so what am I going to talk about? So I had this thought, which may be original. Did you ever notice in the Torah, whenever brochos were given, they were given practically by the person at his deathbed? When Yitzchak gave it to Yaakov, he says, I want to bench you with terem amos before I die. Yaakov to Shvatim, also, he was sick and he was also on his deathbed. And Moshe, it was also a bracha to Klal Yisrael, the last day of his life. Why is it that they waited till the end, till the last minute? I believe the answer is quite simple. But let me sidetrack just for a moment. Some of you may have heard this over Shabbos. I'll repeat it again. I asked the following question. We all know that when Yosef sent food, when the brothers found out who he was, he sent all kinds of goodies to his father, and he sent them, the Chumash says, the Torah says, Agolos. Rashi says that this impressed his father. He remembered the last thing they learned was the Parshas of Eglah Arufa, Evatchi Ruach Yaakov V'Yamin. He became very happy, his spirit came back. So I asked a couple of questions about this. First of all, why is it so surprising for Yaakov that he remembered the last thing that he learned? Everybody remembers the last thing, the last time. If any of you have been in Israel multiple times and I ask you when was the last time you were in Israel, you'll remember. I was there last year. If I ask you when was the third time you were there, you may not remember. With everything is that way. The last thing you remember. I may not remember the last time I ate sweetbreads. I mean, the first time I ate sweetbreads, rather. But I certainly remember the last time. And boy, do I remember it. In fact, I remember the last 6 times I ate sweetbreads. They were all on Sunday at the wedding. They were amazing. In fact, let's track a bag. It was well worth going off my diet. Many of you don't know this, but I'm on a mission. I call it 62 by 62. No, it's not my dimensions, as some of you may have suggested. but I'd like to lose, I'm on a mission to lose 62 pounds by the time I'm 62. For those of you who didn't get a chance to take off your shoes before, I'll tell you when that will be, Mendy Schwartz. But yes, those sweetbreads were amazing. So let's get back to the question. Why was Yaakov so impressed that he remembered it? It was the last thing he learned, and of course he remembered. I also asked another question. Wasn't Yaakov concerned that for the last 22 years, Yosef didn't learn anything else? That he's still stuck on that same sugya of Egla Rufa? He's been away for 22 years, didn't learn anything. So I gave an answer which I know is original and quite cute as well. Yosef was doing the Daf Yomi. And in 22 years, he did the cycle, which is 7.5 years, exactly 3 times, which is a chazaka. And therefore, he was holding exactly on the same daf of the sugya of Egla Rufa. This excited Yaakov. And this is what impressed him. Nevertheless, we do know and we see that the last thing somebody does is what you remember most. And we also have a klal hakol holech achar sof. It's what we do at the end that really counts. What we eat last stays on our palate. And that was the intention of the Avos and Moshe Rabbeinu. They wanted the last thing that the children heard from the Avos, the last thing that Klal Yisrael would hear from Moshe Rabbeinu should be brochos. But then I thought about this and I realized that I may have missed a greater lesson. And maybe even a much more simple approach. In fact, maybe it is the reversed way we have to look at this, at these events. Not as an end point of time, but rather as a beginning. Each one of these brochos was a major beginning in time that shaped the history of Klal Yisrael. When Yitzchak gave the bracha to Yaakov, he was leaving, Vayetze Yaakov Meishava, he went on, he found his wife, he bore the Shiftei Kah, 12 Shvatim. This was one of the major points in our history. When Yaakov gave the brachas to Shvatim, it was another major milestone beginning of the enslavement of the Jews in Mitzrayim. When Moshe gave the bracha to Klal Yisrael, they were beginning their journey and entering Eretz Yisrael. No time in our lives do we embark on a greater journey than when we get married. Moshe and Adriana, 3 days ago, the two of you began a great journey. And I'm not just talking about the trip that it took from one end of the hall to the other. So let me have the honor of giving you both brothers. I'll start with Moshe. I first met Moshe 9,666 days ago. At that time, he was just 6 hours old. I was right away impressed with him. He was already taller than his father. The other thing I noticed is that while most newborns are dressed in a onesie and a diaper, Mo was wearing a tank top and shorts. I later found out from the nurse that he was on his way to the gym. But seriously, the best bracha that I can give you is that Hashem should bless you to continue in the righteous path that you've been following in the 231,954 hours since then. Actually, because of Howie, I can change that to 955.
You love me.
We love you. But the real credit goes to your parents. To Shai Hersh, who gives his whole life, and sometimes his pants, to his children. Some people eke out and find a little time here and there to spend with their children. With Shai Hersh, it's the rule, not the exception. Shai Hersh is not an eker. For Shai Hersh, it's the iker, children. And to Yehudis, what can I say? That Shai Hersh hasn't told you 1,000 times. Don't bring in the soup until the fish has been removed.
He has the same voice.
Remember, a lot of the time, I could go on and not run out of praises for both of you. But the truth is, it would be an exercise in futility because everyone here knows that already. And if I'm mentioning that, I should mention that although I don't know the Berg family that well, from what I've seen and from what I've heard and from what he's told me to say, they're exemplary people. They're pillars in their community, Baal Chesed, and it's really an honor for us to bring you into our family. And now to the Kala. I can't leave here tonight without saying at least one gematria, or else will kill me. So here's my brocha. Your name, as printed on the invitation, is Ita Leah. Am I correct? Ita equals 90. Leah equals 36. So right away, we see a great segula, that they are both multiples of 18, Chai. Also, the number 90 is sandwiched between 89 and 91. The number 91, for those that follow gematria, is an amazing number, but the most notable is that it's Amen, is 91. The number 89 is very relevant, as it's the gematria of the holiday of the Yom Tov we just celebrated, Hanukkah. Amazingly, 36, which is Leah, is the total number of candles we light on Hanukkah for all the days. So my bracha to you is that may your charm and flame light up both of your lives together till 120. Amen. By the way, Adriana, that gives you 2 years at the end of freedom. Do the math. In closing, I want to wish our whole family as well as the Bergs that we should celebrate many more simchas together and see nachas from this wonderful, beautiful couple. And for that, we can all really say Amen.
Amen.